Oh
You're
my
so like
God,
high that you
no
don't even realize you're high.
Sounds like you
Yeah.
just smoking on
Like
something.
you're just like,
Like, bro, you're just like,
What was I saying?
You are now listening to Couch Lock News.
yeah, I'm stoned.
We have to take another hit.
oh my God, no way.
And we are live.
Well, welcome back to the number one Florida Medical Marijuana podcast in the state of Florida. How's everybody doing today? We are here, Couch Talk News, with the one and only Mr. Brady Cobb from One Planet. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Thank you so much. Let's just hop right into it. I know a lot of people know your background. You've done a lot of interviews and stuff. So let's just do like a quick little, like maybe 1 minute synopsis on who Brady Cobb is in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I'm a Florida-raised kid. I was born down here in Broward County, lived in the Keys. My dad, as I'm sure everyone's read and seen, was a smuggler, late 70s, early 80s, kind of lost his battle with cancer in 2010. And through his life and through my own life, cannabis has been a part of my life. So I'm a big surfer, so it's been a part of my life. It's a part of that culture.
Yeah.
To me, it's always been something that, I took a little bit different path than my dad. He was smuggling it, and I became a lawyer. I went to college and became a lawyer. I really wanted to be a pro surfer. But once I drew a heat against some guys that are really good, I realized pretty quickly it's time to go to college. Went to Florida State, got to hang with my dad a bunch up there because my family got divorced when he got indicted.
Okay.
A lot. And cannabis just became more and more and more a part of my life. And I had opportunities to go to California or Colorado, but I'm a Florida boy and I wanted to do it here. And had the privilege of kind of working for some big time guys in the Florida Senate and worked my way in the lobby world. And the opportunity arose, went to work at Liberty Health and kind of put that deal together that made Liberty Health. My big issue with Liberty Health was, the group that came in wanted to run it like the big Canadian companies. There was really no focus on high quality flower.
Okay.
So left a job and went and put money together to go buy Three Boys Farms and try to do it the right way.
So that's what I really want to get into is fast forward. How did you specifically get started with One Plant? And like you said, you started with LHS, but like, how did you specifically get started with One Plant and Three Boys Farm, like come on your radar specifically?
Yeah, so we were looking at acquiring another license. I put a group together to go and get another license in Florida and try to do it the way that I always had dreamed of doing it and kind of the vision of doing it. And knew Robert Tornello, who was the founder of Three Boys Farms, and connected with him and ultimately came to a meeting of the minds to acquire the license from him. And then the hard work really started of going and convincing friends of mine in the space in California and Colorado, black market growers that maybe had found the legal market or some that hadn't, and saying, I want to come to Florida and I want to do things the right way. And I also had the benefit of the experience of, I was the CEO of Seoul Global. There's been plenty written about Seoul, but the one benefit of being at Seoul was we were an investment company in the cannabis space that had, $200+ million to deploy. I got to see a lot of deals. I got to see a lot of people do it really well. And I got to see a lot of people not do it so well.
So my question is, back up a little bit then. Can you explain a little bit about what Seoul is and how you got started there?
So I was Seoul Global is a public company in Canada. They were an investments company. So they were originally a biotech company that had some cannabinoids that were being studied at the University of Miami to actually treat CTE and head trauma.
Really?
So we actually got a DEA Schedule I license for the University of Miami's Miller School of Medicine, and Dr. Jillian Holtz. They found a cannabinoid combination that it was a pill if taken before soldier went to battle or an athlete stepped onto a field and there was a head injury. Our initial animal trial revealed that it reduced the swelling and inflammation that causes CTE substantially.
Okay.
So that's how Seoul Global, and it was originally Scythian Biosciences, even started.
Okay.
I came aboard in October of 2018 as we made this investment in Florida and became the CEO and a member of the board of directors. And one of the things we did was go survey the market and find what we thought were going to be the true brands or the true people in the space that were doing it right. Did we get it right every time? Absolutely not. But we did make an investment in Verano Holdings, which is a multi-state operator, so a private company that they're crushing it. They're doing an absolutely good job. Those guys visited their grows in Illinois and they were absolutely beautiful. They were actually focused on flower. But I got the experience to go spend some time in Humboldt and spend a lot of time with guys, kind of a brother from another mother.
Really good area.
Northern Emerald. Got to spend a lot of time with them. And at one point we were going to merge with them. We may merge with them in the future at One Plant. But all that time in the industry and in the space, getting to go and meet with the people that were boots on the ground in California and Colorado and kind of pushing the envelope gave me the exposure and the opportunity to see exactly what I wanted to do here in Florida. And it's a lofty ambition. And I just want to say right from the outset, I have huge ambitions. I've always had huge ambitions. I'm always looking to kind of push and live on the edge. And do we always come through? No. Or am I infallible? Is my team infallible? Absolutely not. But we're always, that's what we pushed hard to get that first batch of Mac 1 in Florida that dropped last October. That was the first true kind of proper genetics, hand trimmed. And I'm proud of the fact that there's been a lot of people that have been copycatting us and chasing that quality level since we did that. Doesn't mean we're done pushing.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
That's important that you say that too. I like that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chase. Sorry.
No, I said that's important that you say that too. I like that. I like that ending part. That's it.
So then
like part of our greenhouse plan, whether it's in Ruskin or whether it's in Indiantown, is a big chunk of the greenhouse is always, and I want to talk about our greenhouse if you guys want to a little bit, what makes Indiantown, it's called a greenhouse, more of a hybrid, but there's dedicated space in each one of those facilities just for R&D.
Okay.
Meaning I send our growers out and they have the opportunity to go out and work with the breeders that they have a trust relationship with, the capulators, the Swamp Boy Seeds, all those guys that they can go talk to get us the best genetics that aren't in Florida yet. We run them through R&D, see how they perform. So we're constantly going to be refreshing the strain list.
Okay.
It's harder to do that in Ruskin because we only had 18,000 feet of flower.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
In Indiantown, we have a much bigger palette to work with and a much bigger space to work with. So we're going to consistently, you're going to see 4, 5, or 6 strains kind of consistently from us as we dial them in. And then you're always going to be seeing, and what we're going to do with a lot of those new strains to kind of tease it a little bit is sell them in the gram. That's why we did the runts in the grams. So we can get as many people to try it, see the reviews, see how they like it, and it either works or it doesn't. And we keep consistently pushing ourselves to bring better and better genetics into the state. What
are some strains that you are excited about coming up here? If you could give us a little sneak peek.
That runts was crazy.
Yeah, the runts is, we're going to continue to dial that in. That stuff was, it tested super low, and I know everyone in the State's having issues with testing right now with the whole, we've worked on our QC process a little bit to make sure that we're getting the best results possible. But runts is a perfect example. You're going to see a lot more runts coming. It's not just going to be a limited drop. There's a bunch of canopy space. I know everyone got a little taste of the sour dub. Really dialed that in even further. So you're going to see sour dub. London pound cake is coming, and that's one that just looks really, really good as it's coming up right now. So those are some that I definitely keep an eye out for. And then we've got a bunch you're going to see announcements on that are coming that are really going to be some stuff that people haven't seen in Florida before that we're really excited to get here. We also got a really good mass super skunk coming, and we've got a crippy. So
that's some exciting stuff.
Get some growers cuts on some crippy, and we're excited to bring that. As a Florida kid, we all were looking for crippy back in the day. So
that's so fun.
So branching off that, I want to dive into something that I think a lot of people want to know about. And I want to dive into it in a different way than what a lot of people do. And that is the most recent batch of Mac 1 and the bud rot and mold issues that experience. And basically I want to bring this up because I'm so excited about a lot of these strains coming up that you just mentioned. And just as a customer, wanting to ensure the quality and the growing process will be up to standard. And so basically, I want to start with something different. Like I said, why in Florida in general? Because One Plant is not the only company to have issues with mold. Is it hard to grow in this environment? And what are the biggest steps companies can take to ensure these growing processes?
It's really hard. Florida's a tough environment. That's why you look at California, especially Northern California. I mean, if you were to look up what I think would probably be the most optimal environment, but that's why Humboldt County is.
There's the triangle, yeah.
It's a great growing environment. Plants don't like, cannabis flower doesn't like heat. It doesn't like moisture. So, you can kind of get around the heat, but the problem that you're seeing a lot of people run into with Gen 1 facilities is it gets super hot during the day, cools back off in the morning and the night. Those temperature variances, especially in the spring seasons when you get where you're getting a big seasonal shift from a March to a May to an April, where it starts getting progressively hotter as you go from March, April, May, June, and then kind of where we are right now with the August, September, October, before we kind of get the first little cool down we get, it's hard, which is why it was hard to take some late. We ran into issues in Ruskin. I mean, in Ruskin, everyone wants to know there was a batch of sourdough that was slated to drop on 420 that we pulled, not sell it. And it was
I actually know Chase was looking forward to that batch a lot.
We tried it at our Christmas party, and I was looking forward to it since we tried it at December at our Christmas party. Okay, we had we did an R&D. So for me, trust me, we were all looking forward to it, and the business as a whole, with trying to have something new to come out on a 420, but we made the decision as a team that it didn't meet our standards. And it was an insignificant amount for what we, as a percentage of what we push out of Ruskin. So everyone's going to run into it. I can tell you on it's just in Gen 1 facilities that aren't climate controlled and super dialed in, it's hard. And then the other thing that's hard is when you're dealing with these new testing rules, and it's something I actually spoke directly to the director of OMU about, when they're now have the testing labs having these huge delays of 7 and 8 and 10 days, products sitting in packaging in climate control, and then you got to move it to a store where it's going out of a van into hotter air and then back into a colder vault. And then from the minute it leaves the store, and when someone purchases it, the first Mac 1 complaint we got was 4+ days after the batch dropped. I don't know what happened between the time of purchase and when it actually the complaint came, but all I can tell you guys is we took it. We're much can be said about us. I have this was actually, I don't want to follow Reddit, but that's something that actually got a good laugh out of. I'm a huge smartass, so if you're going to give it, you got to take it. I thought that was pretty good, so that's why I figured Reddit would giving credit where credit's due. But we took it. We're GMP. Some people that post that on their website, but we're a growers company. My growers were absolutely crushed when they saw that there was some issues being raised. So
can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yeah.
And I before you go too far, because I like where you're doing this, but can you go a little bit deeper into like what bud rot is and what the difference between like the mold and what bud rot more specifically is? Because that was one of the biggest complaints that I saw on that Mac issue. And I personally would like to know a little bit more about it and how it can be prevented and stuff like that.
Yeah, so for the biggest issue that we found with that batch of Mac 1, let me take a step back and walk you through. So we did we're GMP, and we take that very seriously, because if we're going to live and die by the quality of our flower, part of our mission statement is our cannabis is grown, not made. That's not just up there because, we're not where nature meets science. We're a flower company. This is the same flower my dad was smuggling. This is the same flower that guys have been growing in Humboldt. People are sitting in jail for. This is cannabis. And we take it we don't take ourselves seriously, which is why this is up behind me, because we do this stuff all the time. We take our cannabis seriously. So for us to have this pop up and an issue like this pop up was something that literally everything stopped in our company. And it was the QA QC team, go do your job. Now, what does that mean? Immediately begin the QA QC process of assessing the situation. COA check, yes. Okay, now let's go. We immediately suspended sales as soon as our team went in and did some QA and QC. We then proactively called people that had orders pending for either curbside pickup or for delivery to say, we're not selling this to you anymore. We will offer you a refund, or we will offer you a credit on a future purchase. So I've seen, and people have forwarded me things saying you're still selling it even after you. So then we brought it all back to the lab in Indiantown. And QA QC team, as well as a member of the grow team, Brian Roberts at Burn. He's at BRRRRN on Instagram. He came in and they went with a microscope through the entire batch. And it was not a significant amount of ACE that they had to open up and go through. They did not find one instance of mold. So no mold in random sampling, clean COA, and then they did a physical inspection of all of the product and no mold. What they did find was over radiation.
Okay. Can you explain what that is?
Brown spots. Those are the brown spots you see on that was what they did find, was some brown spots, this is a new facility that we moved into in April 8th. And it took us almost a year to dial in Ruskin from when we really started, after we made the upgrades we made in Ruskin. I mean, we put HVAC in, we put dehumidification in, we put a new well in, we sealed it, put proper blackout curtains in, but that was a Gen 1 facility. This is a new facility that we moved into that almost immediately we put it under stress, because we went right into the hottest part of the year. The environmentals were not dialed in, because when I talk to you guys, hopefully I can talk to you guys during this a little bit about some of the systems we have in Indiantown. This is stuff that it's a learning curve. So this first batch, is not representative of our best, but what I am very proud to say and what I'm incredibly proud of is our team, led by Charles Bailey and Kevin Fitzpatrick and the Grow team, did an absolutely amazing job. And we didn't find any mold, which is why we didn't have, we consulted with OMMU the entire time. We let them know what we were doing. It was a voluntary pullback. We haven't sold it since. But what we did find in the results of the QC is that there was no mold.
Okay.
And that meant a lot to me and that meant a lot to the growers because that's just not who we are. I'm not going to be Cetera, and I'm not going to be some of these others that consistently have this problem.
Mm-hmm.
We had the problem with sourdough, and much to me even wanted to get it out. We didn't sell it.
Was it was it not caught before it got out? So like obviously you guys are okay with making that decision of pulling the product. Was it just like it slipped someone's like?
And also, sorry to interrupt you, buddy, but I know like another one of the main concerns was and I see that you guys called people and you gave funds out, but also was there like a mass I guess I should read the exact phrase for word, a mass email or message sent out like to patients as well, other than just like the cause and like the reward points as well? Just wondering.
No. So we reached out, we did not send a mass communication out. No, that was not part of our GM. That was not part of our QC process. Once the QC process was completed and we pulled the product, so that we stopped selling it.
Mm-hmm.
And so no one else is buying it. For any patients that called in to say, hey, I saw this as an issue, I think I have an issue, every single one of them was offered a refund or a credit on future purchases.
Okay.
But I didn't, I'm just, this is where you're always going to see what you get with me, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. But, I didn't have to go message a moderator on Reddit to say, hey, text me that you have a concern so I can text you back this long-winded thing to make me look good. We just did it.
Yeah.
Very simple. We just did it. I'm not playing. We're here to run a business. We take our flower very seriously. We understand the privilege. And I want to say something about that in the sense that I interact with a lot of people that are still not allowed to do what I get to do in the sunshine legally, that aren't allowed to get to be in this position and have growers that get to do this where it's legal. And we don't take that privilege lightly. We're a grower focused company, and our growers even recognize how lucky they are because they used to sit and grow in houses and do stuff where they couldn't be in the sunshine. So we take issues like this very seriously, and every one of our customers, I'm very proud of the fact, and our customer care team that will work their butts off for days, making phone call after phone call after phone call to make it right for people.
Mm-hmm.
Are we perfect? No, I mean, could we have set something out as a mass email? Probably. And this was a dry one for us, but I'm just here to acknowledge that it was a big dose of humility for me, big dose of humility for the team, but I am very proud of the team that they went through and executed their GMP very, very well. And that I was really happy to find that the mold was not in that flower because that
thanks for answering that, by the way.
So just touching back on that, you said it was radiation, like overexposure to radiation. Light burn. Okay, so that's what it was. So touching on that, I guess to wrap up this specific subject, like I guess people want to know, what is One Plant doing in the future specifically in implementing to ensure that you guys are that premium boutique cannabis brand in Florida?
So we took, we recognized as we moved from a 24,000 square foot facility in Ruskin, and still have that place running, by the way, we're still growing in Ruskin every single day, to a 54,000 square foot new. We've gone from 45 employees to over 170. And there's growing pains. So what we did do is we went and hired a guy by the name of Kevin Fitzpatrick. I've known Kevin and his family for a long time. Kevin is a local Florida boy that went and got a ton of experience out in California and Oregon, working basically all running grows in Oregon and California, running hash labs in Oregon and California. And he came on solely to be a kind of a QC lead because there was a bit of a gap between some of the operations leads and the growers. And we quadrupled. We've gone from 300 pounds a month in what we're outputting out of Ruskin to close to 1,300 pounds is what's coming out of Indian. So our trim and QA and QC guys and gals were candidly a little bit understaffed. So we've implemented a whole set of new protocols and procedures. We put additional people that have trained eyes that live and die and fully bought into what we want to produce and what we want to do, that are now going through on a much deeper level. So look, we heard and we saw and we felt and we've reacted, and we are confident that what people are going to see coming from us is going to be a lot different, and it's going to be more up to what people are used to from us.
Okay.
So It's we heard, we thought, we acknowledge.
So you would largely attribute this last batch of Mac 1 to just really, you know, a new facility, a new, like just new, like it was a test batch almost, you know, like at this new place.
I mean, for the first, there was times before the power surge stuff was in where, you know, you're in Florida, you're in the middle of a field just east of Lake Okeechobee. We're dialing in new systems. You have to commission these systems. These aren't, and whenever you're ready, I'd love to walk you guys through some of these systems and what we have there. This is not just flipping on a split AC unit and some lights. This is a $14.5 million facility that is basically a smart facility. And to learn and dial in all those systems, that arguably is probably one of the harshest climates where it can go from 77 degrees to 100 degrees with 80% humidity all in the same day. This is a test run. I can tell you from our first bay we took down that I was really proud. I got to move the plants in. I got to move them over when they went over to the flower room. And then I actually got to be there to help harvest. That was the first run. Okay. The first launch of a rocket doesn't always go so well, but we are 100% committed around the clock, and everyone is going to see what that facility can do. And all I can tell you is, the first room we took down was our room 3. Rooms 4 and 5, which are in cure and packaging right now, are the ones to judge us off of.
Okay. Thank you.
And
for
then,
sharing
by the
that.
way, it took us a year to dial in Ruskin. We're going to continue to be dialing Indiantown in. It's, as I told you guys in the beginning, and I mean it, we live on the edge. So we are always going to be pushing to bring better and better and better. And I'm happy, honestly, I saw the Sea Junkie guys, who I've got a ton of respect for, are now working out at Liberty. I hope they upgrade that facility. And the better the flower gets in Florida, the rising tide's going to float all boats. But I can tell you, no one in our group is sleeping very well right now because we're grinding hard.
That's good to hear. So I guess one of the other things that we want to talk about that might not be the most fun topics before we can get into some of the more upcoming stuff and, more pleasant conversation. A lot of people recently have not loved some of your guys' marketing decisions. And so this is where I wanted to touch back a minute ago, is that you're the CEO of one plant. You're only one person. Other people make mistakes. What is your day-to-day role in the company? So people can get an idea, because, the CEO often will take blame and responsibility for a company's mistakes, especially given how public you are. So just to give people a more in-depth idea, what do you do on a day-to-day basis at one plant?
So we've grown tremendously. So my role, as I've added on team members around me, has changed. So in the beginning there was 10 or 12 of us, and it was all hands on deck. Some days you're cleaning the floor, some days you're helping in the garden, some days you're talking to investors and having to play that game, which is probably the least favorite thing to do, the public market side and all of that.
Yeah.
As I sit here now, I'm proud to say I'm surrounded by an absolutely amazing team of people that makes my job be able to focus a little bit more on steering and kind of keeping and staying in touch and supporting these team members. So one of the things I learned very early on as a lawyer, getting to surround myself with people that were a lot smarter than me in business, is you always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. No ego involved. So yes, I'm the CEO. Yes, I'm the tip of the spear. And I understand that as a tip of the spear, I'm going to take shots. That's part of it. And I'm willing to do that for the team because I know each and every one of them is executing. So what is my day-to-day? It's checking in with all my team leads across all segments of the business, whether it be Chris Keller, the grower, or Brian, whether it's Mike Smuts, our chief operations officer, to get an update on upgrades we're doing to our manufacturing or the lab. It's checking in with Joey Kelly to see how he's doing. It's then doing the messaging work I have to do to the market and to our investors and our capital partners. And then it's more looking at strategically, what are our next moves going to be? What is it that we're going to do? What new genetics are we going to try to go get? What stores are we looking to open? How are we going to continue to optimize our website? Because we just launched our first e-com website that we developed on our own because unfortunately the legacy platforms didn't have a big fix for delivery. They weren't designed for delivery. We're delivery, delivery is a big part of who we are. So a lot of what I do has transitioned from nuts and bolts and really grinding to trying to help really steer the ship and make sure that my team leads across all segments of the business are supported, can use me as a sounding board, can use me as a resource. And then honestly, I'm spending 1 or 2 days a week in one of the gardens just to keep my feet on the ground. You can't lose sight of that. You can't say you're a cannabis company if you don't know what the inside of a garden looks like, or what those guys have to do in there to move plants or trim plants and or just be connected with the plants themselves. I mean, I'm in there, and I know there's much that's been said about videos from in the grow and everything else. I get it, but that's not artificial. Some people go take photo ops in their grows. I'm in because it keeps my feet on the ground. It keeps me focused on what it is that we want to do.
Okay, so then diving a little bit. All right, one actually quick offshoot. We had someone ask, will you guys be returning delivery to like the Pensacola area, or is there just not enough demand up there?
We are. So we're opening a store in Pensacola. We're opening a store in Tallahassee. Once the Tallahassee store will probably open before the Pensacola store. We are going back to the Panhandle. My father was a Pensacola boy.
Okay.
In Florida. I've obviously spent a lot of time up in the Panhandle myself. We'll be back up there. We haven't forgotten it. Just from a turnaround standpoint, a demand standpoint, it just
doesn't make the most logistic sense.
It's a long haul over there, and because I can't you can't ship it any other way right now, given we're still Schedule 1. I got to have 2 delivery drivers in a van that got to have drive 6 hours from where our closest hub is right now. All in from Jacksonville. It's just we have to, but we are focused. And one of the things we do that's a little bit different is as we go into each individual community, we look to become and assimilate and become a part of that community.
Okay.
So before we go open a store, it's in Jacksonville, for example. I'm a surfer. I've grown up. I know the Sunrise Surf Shop guys forever, and it was going and partnering with them, sponsoring local surf contests, participating in home and garden shows, showing people that we want to be a part of the community. It's not an instantaneous throw a welcome party and get some influencers there to take cool pictures. It's spending time to get involved in the community, become a resource in that community, and that process is about to start in Pensacola and the Panhandle.
All right. So that set the layout. I guess, like I said, we're going to jump into some of the specific things that I guess people wanted to talk about. And
if you want to talk about the marketing, I'm happy to talk about it.
What specific issue were you speaking of?
Oh, so I'm sure a lot of people did not like the term, the derogatory term that P-Bud Mike used on his Instagram. And while a lot of people understand that this is someone's personal private account and, they're their own person, but they do work for one plant, and being their employer, I guess a lot of people felt like he should, I'm going to be honest, I haven't followed up on this. I know he apologized, but a lot of people felt like he should be held a little bit more personally accountable.
So, look, P-Bud is P-Bud. He is who he is. I feel really lucky. If you would ask me 5 years ago if I'd have a guy like that I got to call a colleague from a grower standpoint. I mean, think about what he's done since, getting and discovering the chem genetics. He shepherded them through when full illegality, growing it where he could. Now he's here in Florida and gets to do it after coming to us from Colorado. Is he perfect? No. Are any of us perfect? No. Did we have internal, what you're going to see from us is we're not doing stuff kind of for media attention or show. We dealt with it internally, sternly. And is his choice of words bad? Yeah, it was. Could he have said something different? I personally would have said the word, clowns. I think I personally think chasing just a THC percentage from a third-party lab that I'm just telling you from personal experience. I've had these third-party labs in Florida send the same sample from the same batch to 2 different labs and have a variance of close to 30% in cannabinoid content. That's a big
difference.
That's a big variance. So, P-Bud gets emotional because it's something that he's lived and breathed. It's been a huge part of his life. He needs to, and what we've talked to him about is understand that he's in a bigger role now. He's out there as someone that's a patient advocate.
So there was a conversation that's what I think people want to hear. You sat down with him.
Absolutely a conversation across everybody. I know I've myself in the past have jumped into comments and that I maybe shouldn't have made. And look, I'm a human being. I'm not infallible. We have a tremendous amount of passion for what we do and the quality. And sometimes, P-Bud didn't express himself the right way. But I'm sure in today's world, if I'm just going to be honest with kind of how Reddit, that's why I'm not on Reddit. Because if you were to ask me, Reddit's largely stacked against us from my limited experience of being on there.
And that's something we wanted to touch on.
That was another question, actually.
Yeah, I don't know why, but from P-Bud's standpoint, if he would have called him a clown, I'm sure there would have been a group of people that were formerly clowns on Reddit that would have been offended by him saying clown. So it's kind of, it is what it is, but his choice of words was not something that went unnoticed by us and by me personally. And there was a conversation we had. and it was dealt with. And you're going to see, look, we were disruptive in the market, and people may not want to agree with me in saying that. We came in as a smaller player, and disruptive. We tried to up the flower quality, which I think we have. I'm confident that we have. We tried to put a focus on our growers and genetics and putting out good products, not just rushing bad weed through and discounting it down 35% off or calling it minis. Minis are weed. It's cannabis. And it's just cannabis that wasn't able to grow to its fullest, as well as it could, because it was not in a proper facility and was not treated right. So it's priced where it is. We've tried to do things differently. Ultimately, we're not infallible though. And I know people had felt bad. I know his apology, he put it out. It wasn't something he just put out because we said, hey, you got to apologize, people. He put it out because he lives and dies by this, and he realized he made a mistake. And doesn't mean we're going to change, and doesn't mean we're going to, we learn from everything we do, but we're going to continue to move forward, and we're going to continue to grow as a company and evolve as a company.
Okay, so that being said, this one's a little bit more fun. A lot of people, and this is fun for me because I'm a marketing major personally, and I like to see the concept behind people's ideas and where they were going with it versus how it was perceived. So let's just talk about, this is how One Plant does delivery, motherfuckers video, because I think it came off the wrong way to a lot of people.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the biggest issue was that people, this is a medical industry, and I think in general people's issue with One Plant, if they have one, is that you guys treat it maybe a little bit less medical while your plants are medicinal. Like, you know what I mean, just a little bit more of a recreational vibe.
So that requires, that requires us, and it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. The whole medical versus, it requires an honest conversation, and most people don't want to have that conversation. And
we're here for honesty, so let's go ahead and have it.
Let's have the authenticity. Cannabis is cannabis. And it's the same cannabis that people have been growing in closets and in houses and in fields in Humboldt. And now there's this legal construct in the United States and in these various different states in the US that says you can only grow this and not get arrested for it if it's deemed to be medical. Okay. So it's still cannabis. So if people have an issue with our marketing not saying where nature meets science, or not having a nice elderly couple hugging each other like a pharmaceutical ad, that's just not who we are. And that's going to piss some people off, and I understand that, but you can't please everybody. As you're a marketing major, you know that. It's just not possible. So for us, it's, the ad you want to, we are a cannabis company that is selling medical cannabis. And having watched my own father use cannabis to help him get through chemotherapy, it is one of the most healing plants the earth has ever known. If there's one thing that Chris Sunshine and I agree with each other on, and there's a lot of things we agree with each other on, no matter what. I don't share his taste in tie-dye, but he doesn't share my taste in what I wear. But he's a guy that believes that the plant has a tremendous amount of power, and he's someone that's doing it for family reasons similar to me, and he's someone that's out front. Cannabis is cannabis. We all have to operate in this medical construct, and we will. And the medical benefits that this plant can offer a wide range of people, even those that don't want to get a cannabis card and go through it, the medical cannabis card process, it's not denied by this distinction that's a legal distinction between medical and recreation. It's still cannabis. So the Miss Nicey ad that we did on delivery was, everybody, I'm assuming I did, it was forwarded to me one night while we were literally sitting outside. My wife and I were outside medicating ourselves before we tried to fall asleep. And she showed me this video that I think it was like Tyra Banks or someone reposted from Miss Nicey, where she was sitting in her car about to smoke a joint, ranting and raving about homeschool and having to have her kids home. And we were living that ourselves with 2 kids at home and homeschool. It struck a chord in us. And I jokingly said to my marketing director the next day, like, reach out to her, see where she lives. You never know. Maybe she lives in Florida.
Exactly.
Turns out she lives in Port St. Lucie, about 25 minutes from our grow. So we reached out to her, and we kind of wanted to, in that point in time, we were trying to figure out how do we get ourselves out there on a bigger way with our delivery service, given we're in the middle of a pandemic where people are being ordered to stay at home. And it bothered me personally. We were the only ones that closed our stores during COVID-19. Closed them because we only would offer curbside pickup. I got the first variants approved for curbside pickup. And we got we had the only truly next day e-commerce enabled delivery service that was somewhat reliable in the beginning. I know others have caught up, but at the time, and not a lot of people knew about it. So Miss Nicey had a huge following, and it was called her up, had a great conversation with her, and she said, yeah, let's do it. That'd be awesome.
Mhm.
That was it. It was, she struck a chord because her video went viral.
Okay.
And it was a very germane subject at the time, because here people are worried about dying of COVID-19, but they're going to dispensaries, sitting in closed waiting rooms with people breathing on them. Here in coughing and everything else, a lot of them are dealing with severe medical issues. So they were already compromised and could be even, their conditions could be leading to a very bad COVID experience. We had already closed our stores, as the only ones to close our stores, which no one really wanted to talk about. We had already only gone to curbside and delivery. So let's see if we can have Miss Nicey help us get a broader feel. And let's also, people are stuck at home. Parents like me, parents like my team members who are stuck at home now, homeschooling kids. Literally, we would have to go from one website to another, to log our kids into all these different Zooms all day.
Mm-hmm.
My wife went from being a yoga teacher to a third grade and a second grade teacher at home with not very much support. And she wasn't the only one. There was a lot of people losing their minds, going stir crazy. Let's have a little fun. Let's get a laugh out of some people. This woman's first video went viral. People, we needed a dose of humor in our lives. And it got misinterpreted. But
that happens. Thank you so much for that explanation. I think a lot of people will probably relate to that and find some understanding there.
I think the last thing on marketing, right?
But I know. Actually, I wanted to jump in
one more thing.
One more thing. As a lot of people, like, what were some implementations you guys did for COVID-19, and are you still doing that? Because, and this is where I have to just kind of say it, some people on Reddit have said that you guys don't even have your employees wearing masks, and from my own personal experience, that's not what I found. But got to bring it up.
So we implemented ABC, always be cleaning, sanitizing. So as soon as in like February, we sat down and saw that this was coming and said, let's implement these procedures. And it was, detailed cleaning and sanitization procedures and delivery, basically across every segment of the business.
Okay.
And we closed our stores and we went to only curbside. And then it opened back up. I think in May is when the governor opened things up again. We were kind of the last to kind of come back open, and then we closed again. And we just recently, a couple of weeks ago, reopened the store experience again. Again, we're not blasting that out for fanfare, but our employees in store, I was at our Port St. Lucie and our Boynton stores recently. Everyone's got a mask on in the store. And the one thing we are doing, if you go to our store, you'll get a little pamphlet with a QR code. We are actively pushing people. These QR codes explain how easy it is to use delivery and to use curbside. Mm-hmm. We are trying to get people and actively pushing people to use our delivery option and to use our curbside option, because it's a safer way. And from a business standpoint, I can, the curbside pickup, you can pack the orders and it's a much cleaner, quicker process. Our in-store experience is 5 minutes and change. Our curbside is under 2 minutes. Yeah. So from a patient safety standpoint, but I gotta be honest, a lot of what we were doing is the reason why we closed our stores is our store teams were freaked out. They have people coming in that don't know what their backgrounds are, what health conditions they have. And, I didn't feel comfortable, or neither did Mike Smuts or Connie, who's our retail lead, exposing our store teams to stuff. So a lot of what we do gets misinterpreted. A lot of what we do doesn't get picked up for a bias. Let's all be really honest again with ourselves. Reddit and a lot of these influencers, they're paid influencers. Mm-hmm. They're paid people on Reddit or company reps. So, we can drop the price on product, which everyone has been screaming for a long time. We ran a bunch of promotions during COVID for financial hardships. When people were going through a hard time, we did price drops. And it always just got interpreted, their flour must suck because they dropped the price. Not, hey, thanks, you hurt us. So we don't pay attention to it for that reason. It's like a mandate from me to my team. Don't pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. There's a couple people on the team from the marketing side that check it and keep us up to date. And otherwise, we know we're doing the right thing. We're not perfect.
Yes.
That's something that people always throw at me, and I hear it in Instagram direct messages, and I hear it from people. But the one thing you'll see for us is we're never going to stop trying, and we're always going to keep trying to raise the bar. And I am proud to be one of the few people as a CEO in the space that still actively engages with people on social media platforms to keep, I'm a cannabis user. I'm a cannabis activist. I'm a cannabis enthusiast.
Of course.
I'm not sitting in an ivory tower having a marketing person type up a message for me.
How's it chung, eh? Come on, let's go, Brian. I'm gonna get revenge, just like I did against that pigeon that crapped on my car. Ah! That's right. Get it nice and clean.
All right, now for our next question. Mr. Cobb, what would you say to patients that were insulted and demeaned by your boss, Andy Defrancesco, on Twitter?
So Andy's Andy. First and foremost, I'd like to say he's not my boss. He's not a director. He's not an officer. He's nothing more than a shareholder in the company. He is who he is. You can go Google him and read all about him. I give the guy a lot of credit. He's been a visionary. He was one of the first guys into Canada in the cannabis market. And he was in Florida talking to me about doing stuff in Florida in 2012. So I can't control him. He's a grown man with 4 kids. I don't endorse what he says. I don't believe in what he says. And there's a reason he's not part of this company as an officer, a director, an employee. He's a shareholder, just like anybody else that can buy shares on the Canadian Securities Exchange or on our OTC symbol in the US. So while I respect and value a lot of what he's done in cannabis marketplace as a whole, and I enjoyed working with him, there's a reason I'm not at Seoul Global anymore. And there's a reason I'm the CEO and a director of Bloom Wellness.
Thank you very much for that answer.
Awesome.
That was very in-depth and good to know.
All
So then really the last thing we have to talk about that people wanted to kind of have some sort of explanation with, and I think this will be relatively quick with the marketing stuff, was just this last ChemSys ad. And I guess they're referring to, I guess they're referring to, though, I know it's 2020 and it's a different time period. People need to get woke. And I guess just in the modern era of Me Too and stuff like that, people just find it insensitive of the meaning it comes off, in my view.
I mean, dude, this one
got very much misconstrued and blown out of proportion. But
I mean, listen,
I'm sorry, just on the previous question, what was the marketing behind that? And it seems like from talking to you, you're not as involved in the specific marketing campaigns as you are with the other functions. That's where we went over what you do on a day-to-day basis. But
I mean, I am. I do want to. I never wanted to. The one thing that I've told the marketing department is, and it's Chris Rice, who I've known for a long time. Chris moved here. I moved him here from LA to help me be different. So where everybody else was leaning into this kind of let's be a wannabe pharmaceutical company, let's be a little bit different. The ChemSys ad and the marketing behind it largely got, again, anything that we do gets substantially kind of skewed and misconstrued. There was no intent. The name of the strain is ChemSys. It's Chem Sister. We're talking about a cannabis flower. We're not talking about little sister. So it's, I could say the sky's blue and then someone would yell at us and say, no, it's light blue. So that is, I wear it as the tip of the spear. I understand that I have to, but I don't think our ChemSys ad got a heck of a lot more fanfare than Cureleaf running a picture of an African-American dad and saying token.
Are you familiar with South Park?
Yes, trust me.
Okay.
And having been familiar with it and seeing that ad, I was like, what? Who?
Actually,
through a company that has a marketing department that is 30 times as big as any other company in the state. How was that what you put out on Father's Day?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And that leads us to another question that one of our viewers had for you is, when are we going to get some Integrity weed here in Florida from Randy? Do you have his contact info? I would really like to talk to him.
Integrity.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if we're getting that here anytime soon, but we got a bunch of cool stuff coming that Brian Roberts and the team have been dragging here. So you guys are going to see some really cool stuff coming.
Okay. So now going out of that whole thing, what do you want One Plant to be, and where do you see your guys going in the future in this Florida market?
I want One Plant to be known for having the best flower in the state of Florida, hands down. And I want us to not be the biggest. I don't ever want to go chase down Trulieve and have 70 stores. That's their dream. And I give Kim a tremendous amount of credit for as much crap as I give her. But I give her a tremendous amount of credit for executing on her plan at a very, very high level. That's just not who we want to be. We want to be a grower-focused flower company that creates a brand and a lifestyle that people want to be a part of, and that is focused on cannabis is an absolutely amazing healing plant that can be something that doesn't have to live in the construct of a let's become pharmaceutical.
Mhm.
That's who we want to be. I want to be a top 4 or 5 player in the state of Florida from an MMTC standpoint. And I want to look at potentially looking at other states. You know, we were already looking at going to California a couple of years ago. I killed that deal because it just didn't make sense at the time.
Didn't you guys just open up in Canada?
No, we are not in Canada. We are not
All
in
right,
Canada.
cut that out. I don't know what I saw.
No, wait, what is that one plant then? Where did that just
We
open
have
up?
a license agreement to use one plant in the state of Florida. So there's a group that owns the name and the branding that we really like. I have the rights to use one plant in Florida, and then a first right to use it throughout.
Okay.
So the Canadian group is they're opening one plant stores. That's not us.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Huh,
That explains a lot.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lot
not,
more.
no, we are not in Canada. That is not us.
That was a little confusing.
Yeah,
Not your guys' fault, obviously. Just social media. You know how it
Yeah.
can make it
And so
seem.
we're also going to be super focused on delivery. So
Okay.
you know, for us, we were the first to do it. That was our initial rollout was delivery. And the other thing I'd love to talk to you guys about is just a little bit about what makes our Indiantown facility, because much has been said about it. You know, it's a hoop house, it's this, it's that.
Hmm.
Indiantown's a Nexus facility.
Okay.
With any of the Nexus facilities, they are basically a hybrid. What they allow you to do is you can use the natural sunlight, which I don't know if it's a better light that we've ever known, but use the natural sunlight. But the knock on greenhouses or hoops is you can't control the temperature. If the shades are open, it gets too hot. I mean, if we had the shades open and didn't have the systems running, it'd be 100 degrees in there. And what this system has is a couple of different components. It's got we didn't do one giant room like everybody else does. There's 10 5,000 square foot rooms, so smaller rooms, so we can really dial in each room, and each room gets its own attention from a quality standpoint to make sure that everything is being done in each room to get us the highest quality flower. Also in each room is 10 sensors: water density sensors, light density sensors, CO2 sensors, sunlight and radiation sensors, all feeding into a computer system and an algorithm that helps us to optimize it. So for example, we put set points in the system. If the temperature gets too hot, they see the Daikin chiller units, and these are not your traditional HVAC. These are Daikin chiller units, commercial grade chiller units, as well as a Dragon dehumidification system that continually is running off the algorithm and the sensors to figure out if the light density goes below a certain threshold in a room, the shades automatically close, the indoor lights kick on. If the humidity level gets a little too high, the desiccant dehumidification system will level out the humidity. So what it allows us to do is harness natural sunlight, but keep it 77 degrees and 50% relative humidity in the rooms. What it also allows us to do is it allows us to track. Let's say we get a banging harvest out of one of the rooms. High yield product looks great. We can go back into the system, pull that crops or that batch's time in the room from an environmental standpoint, pull the metrics, see what it lived in and that allowed it to thrive so much and be a good harvest, and then replicate it in the next room. So right now we are going on a 7-day harvest where we're pulling down a room every 7 days.
Okay.
And the growers, again, this is a brand new system for them. No one, that's why the first run was what it was. But what you're going to see is we're going to consistently dial that place in, and it's going to get better and better and better. And the other thing I can say is we're upgrading Ruskin even further. So we're adding more HVAC to Ruskin. We're going to add some additional, a new shade system so we can harness more sunlight there. And the cool thing about, at one point we're thinking, do we keep Ruskin? Do we not keep Ruskin? What's cool about Ruskin is it's kind of like the field of dreams for us. It's what put us on the map. And I'm really proud of the fact that it's soil grown. And even though we can't say we're organic because we're a cannabis company, all practices over there are. So it is, we're stoked to still have soil grown organic cannabis coming out of Ruskin. And then we obviously have our new facility in Indiantown, which will be the bulk. But the one thing I'd like you guys to be stoked to hear is with having both those facilities and a lot more flower than we've ever had, like 4 times as much flower, you're going to see a lot more rosin and a lot more derivative products. So part of bringing Kevin Fitzpatrick in from a QC, he ran one of the nicest hash labs out in Oregon.
Okay.
He has really helped Joey, who you guys did a great interview with, kind of expand the hash making that we're going to do. So you're going to see live rosin, you're going to see dry sift rosin, and we just R&D'd, and they were amazing rosin carts, live rosin carts.
That's
So,
really exciting.
Yeah, you're going to see all this start to roll out as we build up the plans and the production plans to make them happen. And we got to go do some filings with the OMNU to get it approved. But you're going to see, the hash making is going to expand. You're not going to see a lot of SKUs from us.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a 5-to-1 pen, a 9-to-1 pen, a balm, a tincture, this or that, with a bunch of Dom pen and all that stuff. You're going to see flour, pre-rolls. You're going to see distillate. You're going to see hash.
Okay.
And you're going to see some rosin carts, and we're going to keep it simple. You look at a company that if you ask me companies we aspire to be, look at a company like, look at Vans. Okay. Vans made a couple styles of shoes for the first 25 years they were in existence, and they did those really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Starbucks transformed the coffee world by focusing on making really good coffee in a different patient experience before they started adding other types of beverages
and then food and stuff like that.
Right. So for us, we are going to try to dial in what we want to be good at, which is we're a cannabis company that's, for growers and kind of by growers. What do our growers want to see happen? And don't get me wrong, we're always going to be pushing to expand their minds and to want to do new things. But we lean heavy into, let's focus on cannabis and make it the best cannabis that we can make. Put our heads down and do that, and kind of try to tune out the noise as much as we can, except for funny pictures like that from time to time. And aside from that, really just try to put the best cannabis out in the state of Florida. We're not perfect. We're going to have batches that vary. We're going to have issues. And one of the things I have, to answer one of your earlier questions, task the marketing department with is, if something's, let's try to be a little bit more humble and honest to an extent. If it's doesn't meet our standards, or it's something that's not the best that would live up to what we want to live, what we deem the best to be. So let's just have, and you're going to see us, we're going to get bigger. We're going from 4 stores to hopefully like 8 to 10 stores by the end of the year. You're going to see the delivery network expand. We're evolving. We're not perfect, but we're always pushing.
So as a whole,
nice, awesome.
I guess to not wrap this up, but wrap up that part of it, you would say that One Plant is evolving. You guys are new. You're still getting better, and that you'll be listening to the community and reacting and, really working with the patients as well to. I just lost where I was going with that. I'm probably going to restart.
No. I mean, I think
I'm gonna keep that in.
All right,
Honestly.
but we're like working. So basically, you're going to keep learning and growing and reacting to to people's things and growing and striving to do better.
What we're going to do is conditioned answer, which those suck, I know. But what we're going to do is we have a mission statement. We have a vision statement. It's not just a piece of paper to us. We put the whole team in the room for a couple of days until we walk out of there with something we would all run through a wall for.
Okay.
Continue to execute on our plan. We're going to continue to keep our heads down and focused and not be reactive. But what we are going to try to do is be proactive.
Okay.
And acknowledge our faults, acknowledge where we've necessarily haven't done things the best, learn from it, but keep moving forward, doing things our way.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do. And look, patients have issues. We're not going to be looking to hear about the bias comments and everything on Reddit. If a patient comes in, we get, what we're really proud of is our delivery drivers and our store associates get amazing feedback from patients. Some good, some bad. Sometimes the pricing's not right. Sometimes this special that we had didn't actually make sense. We listen to that feedback. I'm not going to go and run
constructive feedback.
I'm not going to run a business based on, paid trolls on social media looking to have us pivot one way or the other. We have a plan that we all believe in. And I say we all believe in. If you guys ever get a chance, once this is all over, to come tour and see the facility, you'll get the vibe that everybody is bought in. And everybody's bought into that plan, and we're going to keep executing on it. Recognizing, though, that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And when it happens, we're going to do what we can to be humble, to be authentic, to kind of take your word, and to keep everybody apprised that we're on this mission to make things better, not worse. Because let's be real honest, before we dropped Caps Cut Mac 1 that was actually hand trimmed back in October, the flower market was not a really pretty thing in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It was
100% agree. Thank you for all that. And I think that's really what people want to hear, and are happy that we finally could hear that and do this podcast. One thing I kind of wanted to talk about, moving on a little bit past One Plant, is The work you've done in reforming the cannabis banking industry, or at least attempting to, I know that that's what a lot of people say is the biggest issue with recreational cannabis and why we're not there. So like someone who has worked with Congress members on that, can you explain a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so the real issue that we have as a whole is in cannabis. I've been up there 5 years now. When we started, we couldn't get meetings with anybody in Congress that didn't make, we got the person that made coffee in the office, like the intern, the unpaid intern, because no one wanted to talk about cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
I give a lot of credit to Representative Earl Blumenauer, who really led the charge. And there was one of his staff members, Laura Thrift, really organized a consensus to get us to be very vocal. But I'd go up on a Wednesday morning and we would do like 25 meetings between Wednesday and Thursday, just door after door, getting told no or to go pound sand in the beginning 95% of the time. But it was just a consistent push. And what kind of bothered me is our natural predators in Washington, alcohol, tobacco, pharma, they are a well-oiled lobbying machine. And we were more of a, group of patriots trying to cobble together some type of a response. And I relish the role of an underdog. If you haven't kind of sensed that at marketing and what we do, it's something I love being told no, and then you go do it. And it's kind of like the Robert Downey Jr. quote, listen, smile, nod, and then go do whatever the fuck it is you're going to do anyways. That's kind of at the core of my mission. So getting told no in those meetings just made me hungrier. And I ended up getting a lobby group up there that agreed to help us, which is led by Haley Barber, who's a very significant figure in DC. And that really helped. But I didn't see a lot of people from the industry making the rounds in DC. And what was really weird is, I know several of the companies here in Florida are members of trade associations, the Cannabis Trade Federation, et cetera. But a lot of the lobbyists that were representing and working out of those associations were very Democratic, liberal leaning. And I don't want to talk about politics, but if the game is to win, the House was always going to be won because it was Democratic. The Senate, which is Republican, is where we needed to go do our work. So sending a bunch of very liberal lobbyists into a Republican Senate kind of goes over like the Hindenburg. So we had to go do a bunch of work in the Senate, and it's starting to really gain traction. And banking to me, DC is a game of incrementalism. It's jumping from stepping stone to stepping stone and keeping moving forward. You're not just going to wake up tomorrow. There's like 30 federal agencies when we mapped it out that would touch cannabis in one way or another if it was legalized. Assuming tomorrow the president by executive order, whether it's tomorrow or whether it's Biden if he wins, declared via executive order that he wants cannabis rescheduled, it's probably 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years before that happens, just from a bureaucratic standpoint. Dang. So DC is a very slow moving beast. So getting safe banking out of the House with 91 Republican votes was massive. I had bet that we'd have 25 to 30 Republican votes. And don't forget that on the same day that the Safe Banking Act came out of the House last year was the same instituted articles of impeachment against a Republican president. And 91 Republicans still crossed the aisle to support it. So now it's in the House. Senator Crapo, who chairs banking and insurance, has been, changed his views a little bit and has been supportive. And you see it in the COVID bill, which was huge, that came out of the House. And we'll see if it ends up back in there. But one thing I think for you guys to pay attention to is cannabis is no longer like a tier 3 issue, a throwaway issue that no one's really focusing on. When you have states like Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Michigan,
Illinois,
key swing states for the Electoral College.
Wrong thing.
Yeah, are now cannabis friendly states where cannabis has been legalized by voters and voters are largely receptive to it.
Yes.
It can't be ignored in the run to the White House. So I think you're going to see some big movement in the latter part of this year on safe banking. And then ultimately the big one for me next year would be the States Act, which I got a chance to participate in the drafting process with Senator Cory Gardner's staff. And that bill will be the one. Safe banking is going to help. It'll update the FinCEN guidance so that we can actually start banking in the sunshine, doing things like processing credit cards online without gift cards and crazy fees and all that stuff. But ultimately, the States Act is where it will really kind of, if that bill can get through, that's a big one because it'll basically say as long as you're complying with state law, it's no longer Schedule 1 covered. Meaning the feds, it's a states' rights bill. It's deregulating it down to the state level.
That's
That
good.
would be huge. And that's the one. That's kind of the one we're really pushing for. But it's a crazy fight to go up there, and I've been really happy to see that Kim has spent more time up there. I know before Jake left Cetera, Jake Bergman, Jake was spending a lot of time up there. The more people that show up and go door to door and do those meetings, it's hard as a CEO to go do that because you walk out of 2 days of meetings and I have 4,000 emails and 50 calls to call back. But absent federal reform, it's got to be probably one of the biggest issues that we face as a cannabis company. My health insurance for my employees costs 40% more than if I was selling tobacco. Funny story about that. When we were getting health insurance underwritten, the health insurance agent goes, "Hey, I can get you a discount, I think, if you guys are a drug-free workplace." You do know what we fucking do, right? We're a cannabis company. He's like, "Oh, okay, sorry." So, I mean, literally, we spend 40% more for health insurance.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. You do
Kinda
know
had
what
a-
we fucking do, right? That's
You do know what we do. That's crazy. You said that, are you and your wife a patient, you said? Or
We're both patients, yes.
okay. Do you, and this is kind of just a fun question, do you just smoke one plant, or do you guys like any other dispensaries or any other products?
Well,
That sounded a little harsher than it meant to come out, but like,
No, not at all. I mean, I am.
Also, does your doctor get the hookup discounts? Because like you, when you walk in, is he like, "Oh shit, what's up?"
Weissman's my doctor. He's a great guy. Well, we do kind of focus a lot on one plant just because I love the flower, but I'll give credit where credit is due. Grow Healthy's kind of stepped their game up. I am a fan of their flower. I was a fan of kind of Move's flower for a little while, not really so much lately. So I do, we do, Grow Healthy stuff that I've seen. It looks pretty good. But I am primarily a one plant patient.
that makes sense.
You violate the old rule, don't get high on your own supply. But
That's funny.
Aside from spending, aside from coming some of the stuff I've had out west, it's again, I couldn't get on this show. I couldn't go to any platform and say that our flower is something that we're proud of if I wasn't also using it. And I don't know if there's a lot of other CEOs that would have this candid of a discussion.
Exactly.
Or actually would talk about their own cannabis use. So that's, for as much shit as I take, this is as real as you're going to hear from me. I couldn't say that if I didn't actually use it. And I couldn't tell you guys that the fish whistle rosin that's going to drop is really good if I didn't know firsthand.
Do you want to take a minute to display or put on display any of these products upcoming that you're very excited about?
I'm going to make sure you guys have them here in the short term. So
That's funny. Yeah, dude. Whoever made that meme.
Hold on one second.
Dude, whoever made that meme in the background is gonna feel like so accomplished, bro. I made it in the office of
Brady Cobb. That's so funny.
That's so funny.
Quick
funny
intake.
stuff.
Hope you guys are loving this interview so far. We've
Yeah.
tried to make it as productive of a conversation as we can. And yeah, here we go.
Fish whistle.
Ooh, that is some.
Oh,
that
there
is
it
some
is.
pretty. That's some pretty holy.
Alright.
Oh Jesus!
It's so light.
It's so
Yeah.
It's like a light. Yeah, it's like that nice light color, man. I love rosin with that color.
Beach sand.
Yeah,
And yeah, there you go.
literally that like light. Oh my gosh, yeah, the beige, like light beige gray. Nice.
Yeah. It's loud too. It's got, when you open it, it's pretty loud. So we're proud. Again, we ran our first couple of batches of rosin. People had mixed reviews. It was, good for the Florida market, but we're not just trying to be good for the Florida market. We want to be good in cannabis. So I want, if guys that I know on the West Coast came here to visit and bought my stuff, they'd give me a call and be like, "Hey, it's good for Florida." That would be an insult. It's good cannabis. So Joey kept dialing it in, and we brought in additional team members around him. So the first batch, people were saying, "Oh, it's greasy, it's brown, it's this." Well, now because we're always pushing, it's this, and it's going to continue to get better.
I remember that. I do remember specifically, like I told you, I was at the Jack's grand opening, and that's when you guys released that rosin. And I do remember being like, this doesn't look like anything I've seen before, but seeing the progression, it's a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, look, it's dialing it in,
Exactly.
Why that first batch, it was still great rosin, but unless you store it and move it properly from the production facility to the stores, it gets a little heat on it. It gets a little greasy. That's just, so it was upgrading and recognizing that, and then upgrading how we stored it, moved it. We invested in some very big freezers so that we could keep it and do the process right. So again, we're not perfect. We're under a microscope, but we're never going to stop trying. We're never going to stop pushing.
That's
and
good to
ultimately,
hear.
I want to get as much of this and really good Mac 1 flower and really good other exotic flower genetics and strains. It's, a lot of growers and a lot of companies in other states have done a very good job of having kind of boutique-y, smaller grows that push out really high quality product in smaller batches. What we're trying to do is a little different. We're trying to do it on a bigger scale and do it in a vertical market where you have to do, vertical is a blessing and a curse. You got to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for us, it's the challenge that I've laid down for the growers is, okay, I've seen what you guys can do in smaller facilities. Let's see if we can do it on scale and expose Florida's patients to what really good cannabis looks like on a consistent basis. That's kind of what our goal is.
That's glad to hear. Would you say that attention to consistency in the genetics and stuff is why patients should shop at one plant opposed to like a Grow Healthy?
Yeah, for us, it's yeah. Short answer is yes. It's our goal is to have consistently the best cannabis across all of our tiers. A little hint on what's coming. We're going to drop some new pricing tiers that I think everyone's going to be pretty stoked on.
That is good to
That's
hear.
good, yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be happy.
That's going to be
about that.
huge. Yeah,
I think
that's going to
this
be huge.
conversation was huge. I think that it cleared up a lot amongst the community, specifically the Reddit community. Oh wait, sorry, I'm not ending it. I just was saying some stuff.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
No. I just meant, I think we cut you off there. I think you were done saying what you're saying.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so we're evolving, as I've said a bunch of times. Pricing is something we just had a guy join our team from the wine world. This was a guy that was a senior level at Gallo, young guy, hungry, ran another huge wine business here in the US, understands the evolution of how wine has gone from something for a select few to understand to now you got Total Wines where you can have a full wine experience. So he brings a depth of knowledge on pricing and pricing architecture and premium branding that we welcomed because, we're have commercial people, but I'm proud of the fact that our company as a whole has a lot of cannabis enthusiasts and a lot of cannabis lifists. I mean, Mike Smuts, who's our chief operating officer, who I don't know a lot of people know about Mike's background, but Mike's background, he opened and ran some of the first chains of legal dispensaries in Colorado. He went to UC Boulder.
Really?
Okay.
Mike's run
wow.
dispensaries. He's run the logistics. So, I mean, from that market's inception. So he brings a wealth of knowledge to us. He joined us. He literally cold called me because he saw me do some stuff in Tallahassee on when people were trying to form an association of MMTCs and kind of respected our vision of not being the biggest and wanting to be the best as far as quality. And he came and joined us, and he's been a massive guy for us to have on our team, given what he's been through. You've got Kevin Fitzpatrick who just joined us with the same kind of experience level. You've got the Kellers of the world who've been growing everywhere. P-Bud, as much as, I wish he wouldn't have used a certain hashtag. You've got a bunch of people here, but we balance the cannabis enthusiasts and maintaining our authenticity with also bringing in guys like Ryan from the wine world at a very high level to help us. If we're going to scale, I don't want to just sell out like a lot of other people have. Maintain our core authenticity as a cannabis company, but do it in a way where we can get more new customers and new patients to try the difference in the quality. That's our number one goal, and we're not going to execute that at 100% perfectly, but we're never going to stop trying.
That's awesome to hear.
Awesome. Thank you.
On that, I think that's a great note to wrap it up on. Is there any questions you have
you
for
have-
us
yeah,
or
do you have any
anything you want to
questions for
say
us?
in general?
Oh, man, guys, I really appreciate the platform. I know I missed a few times to get back to you guys before, just crazy times, but I've done a ton of interviews. This has been more fun ones I've done. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We
thank you, man.
loved
Love
having you, and I hope everyone has a couch lock day. Chase, anything to say before we stop the recording?
Yeah, man. I mean, thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Cobb. It's just going to get a lot of things cleared up in the community that a lot of people were definitely concerned about. I think I'm going to outro it here.
All right, people, that was Brady, King of the Fire Cobb. I hope we could facilitate a productive conversation and answer some of your questions. Chase, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you guys so much for listening, man. You know, this was a great interview. Thank you so much, Mr. Cobb, for coming on. Please press that like button down below if you guys enjoyed this or it helped you anyway. Plus, subscribe if you want to see more of our videos. We hope you guys have a fantastic day. Stay couch locked.
Still blazing, still blazing, still blazing.